Please give us your undivided attention as we begin this press conference. I'd like to invite the Deputy Minister for Press and Public Affairs, Daniel Sando. Now, Sando will come and make a few comments in introducing to you our distinguished guests for today's press briefing. Mr. Sando. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the press. We want to welcome you to this edition of the Ministry of Information regular press briefing. And we just want to start by acknowledging a couple of community radio stations. May I have your attention, please? I show you have all of the time. You had all the time to put your gadget together. See, we have distinguished guests in our midst. Let's need your attention. Thank you. I just want to start by acknowledging State Radio and a host of other commercial and community radio stations across the country that are relaying this press conference. We also want to say thanks to our reporters that I signed here. You made it your duty to provide consistent coverage for the government press briefing. As you already know, this platform is the interface between the government of Liberia and the wider public. And so your presence here continues to make our job easier, continue to enhance the function of this press conference. And we want to say thanks for your commitment to supporting the work of the Ministry of Information. With that being said, today is a very special day. Last week, Ms. Pia announced that we had a team of individuals that had one of the critical sectors of our country, the energy sector. And true to his word, we already have 2 deputies from the NEC. I'm told the managing director is almost here. But then you see the conspicuous presence of the President's Special Envoy on Investment. And you may have heard in the news yesterday that the General Manager of South Africa Global is in the country. I will not say much about that. Mr. Pia, the official spokesperson of the Governor of Liberia, when he mounts the podium, will tell you everything you know about why they are here and how Liberia stands to benefit. So the rundown is that Mr. Pia will make additional comments about the special guests that are here. And then when he concludes with the comments, the guests from South Africa Global will speak. And then I'm told they have our engagement to attend to the leave. This press conference will give exclusive attention to the managing director of the LEC, who will make his presentation. With that being said, I want to encourage you to please give the podium your undivided attention. As I now invite to the microphone our distinguished Minister of Information, the Honorable Philip Mafukuya.
Okay, good afternoon to all of you. We have a little change in our usual protocol today. Instead of the usual presentation from the ministry followed by the guest, I will just say something about the guest and I'm about to call in briefly. Then he will come out and speak. You will have the chance to just interact with him briefly because he's engaged, he has to go. And after that, we'll sit back and about all the time to the team for the IEC. If they utilize the entire time, then we'll not say anything further. If they don't, then maybe towards the end, the ministry will say something in addition to what I'm about to do. Otherwise, then you will hear from us on Thursday, but I think the two guests that are here are very important. And the LEC is, in my mind, one of the star sectors of the administration. They've not had this kind of engagement with you members of the press here at the Ministry of Information. So we want to really give them the time to talk about the sector, but at the same time give them more time to interact with you, the journalists. But before the LEC team does that, you are all aware, it's already in the news that South Africa Global Limited, under the leadership of the group's managing director, Mr. Mustafa Njahi, has officially commenced a high-level investment mission in Liberia. That took place at a personal invitation of President Boubacar. His week-long visit centers on a transformative proposal to develop a 500-unit affordable housing and smart city project on approximately 500 hectares near Monrovia. The initiative is designed to directly address Liberia's housing deficit, generate employment, upgrade critical infrastructure, and facilitate home ownership for the diaspora. The mission is expected to culminate, and I think they've done that already, signed an MOU along with other key agreements, marking a significant step towards achievable urban development and economic partnership between South Africa Global and the Liberian government. He met the president yesterday, which was a very historic step. They signed a non-disclosure agreement with the government of Liberia, and all this marks the beginning of serious discussions around the proposed 5,000 unit affordable housing. I we thought it was important to give him the chance to interact with all of you, since this is the assembly point of all journalists operating in Liberia. So I would now like to invite, for some remarks, Mr. Mustafa Njahi, who will briefly speak to you, and then you interact with him shortly. And after that, then you will have the managing director of the Liberia Electricity Corporation. Mr. Njahi.
Thank you. Thank you, and good afternoon. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for the introduction. Let me first start by thanking His Excellency, the President, Joseph Boakai. My name is Mustafa Njahi. I am the CEO of TAP Africa Global. TAP Africa Global is a pan-African housing development company that I started 36 years ago. I am born Gambian, raised Gambian, and started my business in the Gambia. Fast track, today we are registered in 9 African countries, and we are active in 3 of them. In the Gambia, where I was born, Sierra Leone, and Nigeria. In 2021, we embarked on a vision to develop 1 million affordable homes across the continent of Africa. To date, Tough City is ongoing with 500 hectares and 5,000 affordable homes. There are people living there already. Then in Nigeria, we are developing the Greater Tough City, a development of 20,000 affordable homes. Already people are living in the development. And in Sierra Leone, there's the development of Tough Salone Micro City, with a development of 5,000 units. We will be on 500 hectares of land. Upon the invitation of His Excellency the President of Liberia through the Ambassador Mohamed Ba, we arrived 2 days ago in Liberia, and as the Minister said, yesterday we had very fruitful meetings with the President and other top government officials. We're here for the next 5 days, boots on the ground, as we said, and to register our business and start going. Yesterday, the first question that the President asked was, when are you going to start? And my response was, yesterday. Meaning we have already started. I'm sure all of you in the press have seen how much Liberians have embraced this initiative. And here we are, and I will take any questions that you have on this initiative. Thank you.
So let's take a few questions so you can leave, because then we continue the question. Those of you who have a question, maybe 5 at most. 5. Yeah, 5, just 5. Okay. Formula, just 5.
5, yes. Good afternoon, thank you. My name is Desmond. We're going to report for Democracy Watch newspaper. Thanks, Honorable CEO, and let me say welcome to the land of sunshine and liberty. You know, since our arrival, we as investigative journalists, while it's true we appreciate the expansion of the companies in Liberia, but we too have been interested in terms of investigating your company's profile. And permit me to bring to your attention, as part of our investigations for the past 2 days, there have been some alleged reports in the Gambia where you started, precisely over land claimed to be owned by a group of people named the Bruford Land Restoration. And this report has been there in the Gambia alleging your company in terms of claiming ancestral land and using it to construct affordable homes for these people that have been private driven. So we are concerned now that you are in Liberia, and with this disturbing alleged report there from Gambia where you started consists of similar issues of these kind of allegations. Now you are into Liberia, considering the consistent crisis of land we experience in West African countries, and Liberia is of no exception. How do you confront with these reports back to your home country, and how do you intend to build the trust of the Liberian people with the existing reports of alleged, accusation of ancestral land there in the Gambia?
Shall I respond?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. I'm glad you said alleged. The allegations can be done by anybody, and that's an allegation. And now, when there's an allegation, you refer it back to the court of law. Every country is governed by law. And the allocation of this specific land was 26 years ago. So 26 years ago, we have never been dragged into any legal tussle as far as the land is concerned. As a developer, we have no right and we have no right to step on any parcel of land without legal documentation. So government had the authority to allocate land, like being allocated to so many other investments, and we are not the only one who are allocated. Government has a policy in land allocation, as we are doing here now. Stepping into Liberia, we are not just moving into any land. We are going through the government, starting with the president, and then going to the right authority, and they will go through due process to make land allocation where it's possible. An allegation is an allegation until proven right. And if nobody can prove the right for the past 26 years, I don't think it carries any water. Thank you.
My name is Narusa, and I report for Star TV. What will Liberia benefit from the company intend on bringing such huge investment into the country?
Well, thank you. Every country, including the most advanced countries in the world, look out for investment, private investment, especially housing. So therefore, the first benefit that any country will benefit from, including Liberia, is shelter, making affordable housing. And that's what we are known for. TAF Africa Global is the leading affordable housing developer in Africa. You can do your own due diligence, you are journalists, you can go ahead and do it. We have won 3 times the affordable housing developer being awarded by the Affordable Housing Organization in South Africa. 3 consecutive times we have also won the Affordable Housing Company of the Year in Nigeria, a population of 230 million inhabitants. So that's one benefit. We provide shelter, we provide housing. The other benefit is employment. Because for every house that we build, we create 25 direct jobs, starting from masons, carpenters, electricians, laborers, and you name it. Then comes the indirect job. Everybody knows that on a work site, there's indirect jobs. Even those who sell food to the workers will benefit. Those who supply materials, sand, stones, you name it. So we also provide indirect benefit. Into the economy, because when we build houses, remember, we bring in finance. When we bring finance into the country, it tells on the country's GDP. And for Liberia, to be specific, there's quite a number of Liberians who are living in diaspora, and they buy in hard currency. So we are assisting, bringing back Liberians who are outside, who go through a lot in buying homes, to get houses. Now, the fourth and not the final is the environment. We look after the environment. We have a company policy that every house that we build, we plant 10 new trees. 5 of them must be fruit trees. So these are all the benefits that we can list, just 4 of them, the major benefits, and there are a lot more.
Thank you, CEO. My name is Alison Smo, and I report for Today Liberia Television. We appreciate for the extension of your company to Liberia. But Liberians are listening to you. They want to know, what does this mean for Liberians? And clearly tell Liberians a bit about job creation in your company. Thank you.
But I think maybe I should have done more. I mean, I responded to that. But let me also just go further. Silence, please. First, let me tell you. Let me go down to how this is structured when we come into the country. Remember, this is the 3rd country that we are operating in. So when we come in as TAF Africa Global with a company that is 36 years old, it means that if you are 36 years old, you have been tried and tested. And you can go into the World Wide Web to do your own due diligence. But when we step in, we register our company locally. So we will register TAF Liberia Limited. We're engaging the lawyers to get it registered. Once it is registered, the project is channeled through what we call a special purpose vehicle. It's a public-private partnership, so we partner with the Liberian government. So the Liberian government has a stake in this business. So it's not 100% privately owned by TAF, but the Liberian government, which is your government, our government, will also have shares in this business. So this is a direct benefit to the Liberian people. Employment, I have said so. We do know that the population in every African country is made up of about over 60% who are youth. And the youth need employment. So yes, the houses will be built by Liberians. So that's a major benefit of employment.
Thank you, sir. My name is Joseph Saleh, I report for Lata FM TV. I want to know how decentralized will your housing unit be? Will it just be in Monrovia? And I want to know the range of how much you will be selling for maybe for low-income owners who cannot afford to buy maybe around $35,000-$40,000 out of the house. And B, to that question, since you arrived in Monrovia, what difference is there within the city?
Okay, thank you. First, let me start by saying, like, housing, like any commodity, comes with the equation is cost plus margin. There is a cost to building a house. We don't produce cement. We don't produce any of the materials that you need to buy to build a house. So that is a cost that must be passed on to the buyer. So that's one thing. So for the houses, we are going to have a feasibility study done. We are going to have our consultants who are going to come around and do a feasibility study. Now, in terms of location, as the previous journalist asked, land, and my response was, land is being allocated by the government. We don't have any right to step into any parcel of land without it being contributed or allocated by government. So we leave it to government to suggest the parcels of land that are available, and that's where we will do development. In general, and learning from other countries that we have developed, mostly we decongest the city. We try to decongest the city. So on average, wherever we develop will be about 1 hour drive away from the city. That's a matter of principle. That look, because of the type of housing that we are building, I mean, we are building new cities and micro cities. And in general, it's on a live, work, and play concept. So people who live in those cities don't have to drive every morning to come to Monrovia. So by doing so, it decongests the city. So that's what we are looking forward to. We haven't done inspections yet. We haven't seen the proposals yet. Now, based on the proposals and allocations done by government, that's where the development will take place.
Good afternoon, CEO Dai. My name is Emil Phillips. I am from the Inland newspaper, the Post in the Ministry. We have come to help the person in Liberia, the person in 5,000. Tell what the cost of the investment you intend to bring to our country in dollar and cent. We also want to know whether you are aware of the National Housing Authority, which is also responsible for housing activities in Liberia. Are you working in sync with the National Housing Authority? Finally, you are in 9 countries, but you're already doing TV for now. Tell me why.
Okay, first, the cost we cannot determine now, unless we do a study. As I talk to you now, I don't even know the cost of cement in Liberia. I don't know the cost of building materials in Liberia. I don't know the cost of labor in Liberia. What constitutes the house, I don't know the cost yet. So anybody who's asking about cost, you are trying to build the gun. We cannot tell you the cost now. And I have said so, that we are going to bring in experts who is going to do both a market study and a feasibility study. The feasibility study will be done looking at all these prices, looking at the designs, and then computing it to say, look, this is the price that we are going to sell it for. That's number one. So we cannot tell you the price now. Number two is the housing authority. Yesterday, when we met the president, the head of the housing was there. So yes, we're going to work together. We're going to work with all the government concerns and units that have something to do with housing. It is a partnership, and we come in with our expertise, and our expertise comprises with technical, human resources, financial resources, but we make sure that we include domestic resources as much as possible. So yes, we're going to work together with the housing authority.
Any final message?
Final message is a big thank you to all of you. I mean, you are here to disseminate information. I tell people all the time that anything that you want to know about me, just consult my uncle. You all know my uncle, don't you? Do you know my uncle? No. Uncle Google. So if you consult my uncle or my auntie YouTube, he will tell you everything about us. This world today, that's what we have in our hands that we don't have probably 50 years ago. If you do your due diligence and you search up Tough Africa Global, we are on all socials. We are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we are on YouTube, we are on X, even on TikTok. And I have a page personally that I manage myself. So if you want to even talk to me, every comment that has been coming in, since I arrived 2 days ago in Liberia, it has gone viral. And I try to respond to every comment. I take about 2-3 hours and directly deal. We are very transparent. And I want to also assure Liberians that Tough Africa Global is a pan-African company being built, being developed. In my team, I have my personal assistant, Lucky. who is my personal assistant at the global level, but he's Nigerian. He was hired 13 years ago, and he is the personal assistant for the group, for me as the managing director. My media team, one is from Nigeria, one is from Sierra Leone. My technical team are mixed. I have all nationalities in our group, including Liberians, and we have Musa in Liberia. So we want this company to be accepted, to be seen as a Pan-African company. That's what Africa is looking for. I share the same color with all of you. I look alike with all of you. And we serve as an inspiration to these young ones. I started working in construction 50 years ago. 50 years ago, I started as a carpenter. And today, I stand operating throughout the continent of Africa. So my role here is not only to come and build houses, make money, and move away. No. At my age now, I am here to inspire you young Africans that yes, we can make it in this continent, and that's exactly what we're doing here. I represent people like Aliko Dangote, who all of you know as the richest black man, who's about my age. Today, he owns the biggest petroleum refinery in the world. His cement factories have spanned across the continent. I represent people like Tony Elomelo. I'm sure those of you who follow him, you can see what we're doing. That's the generation of Africans that we represent. That we are not only here to make money, fill our pockets, and live like some investors did, who are not Africans, but we are here to stay. We are here to inspire the young ones, and that's my last word. I hope that we will be received with open arms, understanding that TAF Liberia Limited is beyond Mustafa Njai, the individual. Our vision should be completed in the next 37 years, and I can bet my last dollar that I will not be here to see the end of the vision. And that's what a visionary did, and I will quote Nelson Mandela as I close. He has a very common saying, and he said, it always seems impossible until it is done. So for us, we're here, there's nothing like what we are doing now here in Liberia. Some people probably, they probably thought it was too risky, but for us, we have a very huge appetite for risk. We don't see any high risk in this country, and hopefully in the next few months, you will see TAF Liberia Limited in action with houses being built. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. God bless you. I don't know who will be the lucky, sorry. I don't know who will be the lucky ones, and I don't really say, I want to believe this so you can laugh with it. I mean, as part of the things that I do, in terms of, in terms of, I have a foundation, which is called the TAF Africa Foundation, with 8 different initiatives. And this I set up when I turned 60. I am 69 now, almost 70. So under my foundation, 1% of the company's revenue is put in. So I authored a book called TAF the Builder. It's for young kids to read so that they can be confident by reading this. It's my journey, and I can leave 3 copies around. Maybe you can do a raffle and then see who will be the lucky winner.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yes, thank you so much for everything. Thank you. God bless. Please keep the door closed.
We encourage you to please seize the movement, the corridor. The press conference is still ongoing. Just as we have to excuse the first batch of guests from South Africa Global Limited. With their departure, we will now focus solely on the presentation from the Managing Director of the Liberia Electricity Corporation. Again, I will encourage you to please give the podium your own divided attention. Now, let me now invite to the microphone the Managing Director of LC for his presentation. Media folks will listen to him. Now, so maybe with Andy?
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. Are you hearing me clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we are. Do I need to bring the mic much closer? Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to leave most of the time with you to ask all your questions after a few minutes of introductory remarks. So, Mr. Minister, thank you for the invite. Let me use this occasion first to thank the President of the Republic of Liberia for appointing me and my dynamic team. I call the team the Creme de la Creme. And there is a specific reason why I call it the Creme de la Creme. Because LEC now is about 98% Liberians operating. We do everything local, and we've been really working hard to deliver for the Liberian people. So by thanks and appreciation, go to the President of the Republic of Liberia, His Excellency Jose Newman Boakai, for appointing me and my team. And I also want to extend my thanks and appreciation to the Ministry of Information family, led by His Honorable Minister of Information. What I'm going to do today, I'm going to give you...
Let's have it quiet. Pay attention, please. We're talking.
I'm going to be very practical with you. Like we said, facts from figures. Give it to you. I'm going to tell you, when we took over, what was the situation? Now where we are. There are so many myths out there. We are here today to provide clarification to you. And ordinarily, we at LEC, we don't blame the people that are not technical folks, that do not clearly understand the way we operate. So it is our responsibility at the LEC to inform our people. And this is the reason why the minister and myself, we've been talking over the weeks to say, let us explain to the Liberian people. There are certain circumstances that are peculiar just to Liberia, but there are some that are peculiar to the region, which also has spillover effect on us. So we are here today to explain everything to you. So, like I said, perception without proper understanding leads to what? Deception. So if you can provide the right information, the wrong information will fill that space. So where did we pick up LEC in terms of generation? When we took over in April of last year, to be specific, just today making 1 year, when we were inducted into office by our board of directors. And by the way, let me extend thanks and appreciation to the board of directors of the LEC for their strategic guidance, their leadership, their oversight. We have total generation capacity at about 94 megawatts of electricity. That includes the Mount Coffee, 66 megawatt as installed capacity. Mount Coffee is 88 megawatts, but one heater got damaged since 4 years ago. And that is being repaired. Hopefully that will be coming online this month. So when you add that to 66, becomes 88. On the Bush Road side, thermal plant, 38 megawatt installed capacity. We have installed capacity and available capacity. So what is available at the thermal plant now is about 16 megawatts out of the 38. Then the Mount Coffee, during the peak period of the Mount Coffee, the rainy season, 57 megawatts. So when you pull the two together, you have 70 something megawatts. Now, I can tell you, let me clear that myth. But before coming to that, we've been able to, using our arrest agenda, because that is our guiding post. The president has got a vision that by the year 2030, each and every Liberian, 75% of each and every Liberian should have access to reliable, affordable electricity. And the access then was around 32%. Today we are 38%. We are on a trajectory to achieving the 75%. And when you look at our commitment under the Compact, there is a plan called Compact, developed by the government of Liberia, supported by our partners. In that agenda, we need to connect 75% of the population to electricity. And what that means in real numbers, 100,000 connections on a yearly basis. 60,000 on grade, 40,000 off grade. That means where our grades not connected. So for last year alone, we connected over 63,000 connections. And in addition to that, we realized that our grid, aging grid, after the war, most of the interventions that were done, some were done on emergency basis, some were done 10 years back. You see transformers damage, some of the grid aging. We needed to reinforce, replace most of them. Last year alone, we replaced over 400 transformers. We upgraded our grid system. We extended connections to places that over 40 years we've not had electricity. That include part of Louisiana side, Broville, Bento. And if you can see now, when you walk on the street at night, not only did we connect the first phase from ELW to the EBK barracks, but we also went around the Boystein Junction into Marshall, and we took it from the airport coming to Disco Hill. We are about to complete where the quota, the road, the pavement of the road is completed. Beyond that, within Monrovia, we've gone into community we call the GAPS community. Because in the past, we realized that some communities were connected, while others were left, then jump over some communities, confusion here and there. So what we decided to do, when we took over, we decided to fill these gaps from the LEC generated revenues and support from the national budget as well. Support from our partners through the project, to be specific, the World Bank, the African Development Bank, the European Union, and the German Development Bank. So all these connections, all these interventions have led to significant increase in our demand. So if we were addressing 94, now we are around 143 megawatts. Now, your demand is increasing, but your generation remains flat. Why is it that the generation remains flat? Because generation, you don't develop it overnight. It is not something that you go off the shelf, you go and buy it and just come and install it. Like you just go and buy a generator in a store and plug it. No. For the national scale, we call it utility scale power generation, you have to first go and put in your order to the manufacturer to manufacture. But what is happening now with the introduction of AI, it has created huge demand for power. When you enter ChatGPT, for every second ChatGPT is operating, it's consuming huge electricity in the data centers. So these data centers, they need electricity. So what happened? They form queue with these manufacturers. If you were to go to GE to produce a turbine, GE will tell you your turbine will be available in 36 months because sometimes you have 100 companies in the queue and most of the companies are there with cash. So this is how they lack the lead time to produce power generation. It is not as people think. Once you're ready for the generation, you just go and buy and bring it. So you listen to the president doing the State of the Union and Nation address. The president said by year 2030, it is our clear mission, objective to have available capacity, installed capacity, 700 megawatts, a mix of hydro, thermal, solar, gas, thermal, by the year 2030. Based on that vision of the president, we are moving aggressively to move and have for the Liberian people 700 megawatts. But in terms of information, to tell you that on the CLSG line, anybody can put electricity on the line to transmit it to any of the 14 countries. We are connected to the 14 West African countries, including Morocco, and Morocco is connected to Spain. So if I need power from Cote d'Ivoire, maybe it is 14 cents. If I need power from Guinea, some power purchase agreement with them. So at the beginning, we signed power purchase agreement with Cote d'Ivoire only. At that time, the land connecting Guinea was not completed. It stopped in Sierra Leone called Bunguna to Cameroon. So Guinea used to take power from Cote d'Ivoire to supply Sierra Leone, which is also Guinea. Now, as that was completed, then power started floating on the CLSG land from Linsan, that is the border between Sierra Leone and Guinea. Power coming from Guinea into Onto. Yeah. Now, we signed a PPA with Cote d'Ivoire for 50 megawatts. We signed a power purchase agreement with Guinea, 30 megawatts. Now I hear people say, oh, but you are not getting enough from Guinea. And let me tell you this. During the rainy season, everybody benefits, including everybody in the region. Cote d'Ivoire has hydro, Guinea has hydro. Geological condition in these countries, including ourselves, when there is lower level of water, they themselves feel it. So if you're losing, say for instance in Cote d'Ivoire, 200 megawatts, that will also affect your total availability. And you first need to concentrate in feeding your people. So the load shedding is not peculiar only to Liberia. That's why at the beginning of my statement I said, certain thing happening is it cut across the entire region, including Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea, Rwanda, Nigeria. Some are low shedding 300 megawatts. Some are 200, and we are the least in terms of load shedding, less than 30 megawatts. And in fact, in recent weeks, in the past week or so, we've gone as low as between 10 to 15 megawatts. And our objective is to go 0 megawatts of load shedding. And I tell my people, I say, don't blame the people. We went straight 9 months in the history of post-war Liberia to go without load shedding. 0 load shedding, we were moving. People used to that. All of a sudden, you create a shock, then you start a load shedding. It is our responsibility to explain to the Liberian people, yes, we hear you, we feel your pain, we know that you are used to the constant electricity, and we know you deserve the electricity yesterday, not just any electricity, but reliable electricity, affordable electricity, and sustainable electricity. And this is what we are here as LEC to provide you these services. And I know people have been having concern with our customer services. I will be the first to tell you, not all is good. And this is why we are there to fix things. But what I can tell you today, with support from the government, we are moving aggressively. And when I tell people, they smile. Last 2 weeks ago in Washington, I didn't say this, but Mr. Minister was sitting down, the Minister of Sierra Leone told everybody they want to call LEC to really go and see how best we can explain to them what are we doing differently that is helping us to reduce, to minimize the load shedding. Everybody going to do load shedding. Now I'm saying that not in a braggadocious way, but to tell you what is affecting us today is not only peculiar to Liberia. Until we can have a domestic generation that is either equal to or more than our demands, we will still have load shedding. And the second, the third thing, even if you were to have rain falling heavily now, just stop the import. 57 megawatts, Mankoffi. That's it. Now, Mankoffi rainy season, let us assume the rain is falling. That's just 57. But because of the aggressive connections that we've done over the year, last year and now, that has claimed, should I say geometrically, to very unprecedented to see connection. And that really stems from the fact that when people be confident in the system, they get connected. And we want to make sure we build that credibility, build on that credibility, that confidence to continue connecting you while addressing some of your problems. 143 megawatts of power. And all these things are made what? 53% we are billing. Every dollar we get, only 53 cents we receive. The rest, power theft, losses, total losses. Some are technical, but most of it, power theft. So that's how stretched LEC is. And the government budget is stretched. Government needs to fix roads, hospitals, and things. So if we can work together as collective effort to make sure we reduce significantly the power theft, LEC can go on to even contribute to the budget. So that's one of the myths I wanted to clear. To say, oh, the rain. Yes, the rain can complement. The rain can help. If the rain is there, that's fine. But that is not the only solution. The solution we built on our domestic generation to meet our demand. And our projection 2030 is closer to 500 to 600 megawatts. And we have some reserve carrying up to 700 megawatts. And I can tell you, we are on the trajectory to achieving that particular objective with all the support from the government and including you. So today, I've come here to tell you, we are moving to help you. We listen to you. We hear you. we feel your pain. You need to have electricity yesterday. That's how urgent. You need to sleep on electricity. You need to have electricity on all your streets to reduce the crime rate. We've done much on that front, and we believe that we still need to do more. And this is why me and my team will continue to move aggressively to connect. If you see Kawe driving in the night, you don't need to put your light on. Somalia Drive, Congo Town, and the entire Cinco avenues, we want to put street lights. If Thomas is here, Deputy for Operation, he's in charge of that whole operation. I have Frederick, who is the Deputy for Administration, and I have the CFO, Adam Sharif. The Deputy for Technical Services is currently rushing to attend to some technical matters. So, we are sitting there listening to you. We don't blame or to say, give you excuses. 20 million 2 weeks ago, and we paid 15 million to Cote d'Ivoire, 3 million to Guinea, 2 million to Transco. So today, we are standing in good book with them, and as I coming, I see my megawatts coming on the regional line up. In the night, it goes to 60, the highest since we've been importing. So tell me, it's not about whether it's raining or it's not raining. You bring all the rain now, you stop that regional import, you will even have 12 hours of load shedding. So one cannot go without the oil. The only way we will do so, we build our domestic generation and energy mix. Hydro, solar, gas, thermal plant, or HFO. HFO will come. If we need it, we'll put it on. If we don't need it, we'll shut it down because it's expensive. We are transitioning from fossil fuel to renewable. But you need to have stability before you ensure sustainability, right? You got to first be stable, right? So, Mr. Minister, I will stop here.
I want to say thank you, sir. My name is Daniel and I'm a group of with all your expose and what we heard from you concerning what Liberia is going through on the energy sector. I do appreciate you for that. And my question is, what are the NC doing to mitigate the power tech when it comes to the huge rate of power tech within the country?
We'll take three. After three, you answer. Three, you answer. Very valid one. Every three, you answer.
Thank you. My name is Alison Smo, and I report for Today Liberia Television. Thank you, MD, for that splendid presentation. But you know, with all these presentations, everything comes to sustainable power generation. So what mechanism is LEC putting in place to ensure sustainable power generation to Liberia? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Mr. for the answer in the post of Atlas Television. So I want to know from the MD, how is it that at LEC was the monitoring system at LEC? I want to know about the monitoring system from your communities. If when some community are on or off LEC knows about it because of recent or someone posted something on Facebook and I personally commented on it, and this person, I think from LEC inboxed me personally, and then the person told me that, oh my man, we don't monitor every community like that, but at least when these things happen, at times you guys can inform LEC about it. So I want to know about the monitoring system from LEC.
Okay, thank you. As suggested by the minister, we'll tackle them 3-3. I see that the three questions, they are mutually reinforcing one another. So the first one being the issue of power theft. We are solving that problem to be sustainable. And what we do, we are introducing smart meterings. Now, beginning Monday next week, you will see the publicity out there. We are piloting 100,000 meter in the entire PSV belt, PSV Congo to all the way there. And what that means is that smart meters, it's temper proof. You can take that meter, you go to anywhere to use. When you see my meter, you can use anywhere. We have geofencing around it. It's unique to you. And when you go about to steal or to bypass that meter, automatically a text message will appear on your phone. We call it malware to tell you that you are stealing. We are seeing you because we sit in our offices, monitor you from the dashboard. This is best practice. That's the only way it will work to cut down power theft. Mirabel and her team trying their best. As they connect the leaf, people reconnect. So we can go back and forth. And the issue of sustainability, the question that came about. Yeah, you can interview how sustainable is it over time. So that ensures the sustainability of our intervention. That's why I said the question of mutually it really important. Now on the monitoring side, we have our dashboard, and that speaks to if there is a problem on the grid, we know. If there is a problem in that particular community, we know. Once you go smart grid, they are all part of our digital transformation. What we did when we took over, we developed our strategic plan consistent with the compact, the national compact. Now we develop our digital transformation strategy. All our business plans go along with that. Those are the answers for the 3 questions. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Emmanuel Opongo and I report for Isla Europe. Thank you. So, Liberians, most of them have accused and they already believe that LEC is the problem when it comes to the power theft. They have said that salary for minimum salary like $80 or $100 for a month salary, and then meter is sold for that a month. If meter that should be given for less price so that it is available for everybody is sold for $80 or $70, if someone comes with $10 per month or $5 per month, they will end up owing to that person. So they are saying that you are the cause because they will let it go to the lesser person. How will you address such concern?
So thank you, Abdullah, in part of the for doing this material. I do believe that spoken that you can have So Mr. Pia,
Ask question, but there is a question, go sit down. Okay, question, go sit down.
so all right, let me ask a question too.
Ask LDC question.
All right, let me ask another question. So, the managing director.
Yes, sir.
It is believed that you have cited the institutions that the World Bank, the African Development, and you received some of them. Basically, once one of the projects, you can leave in the nearest future will come that Liberia will think that we will soon relief from the instability of the facility.
So, my name is Joseph Seri, and I report for the news newspaper. Mr. MD, we have received complaints, according to some Liberians, people believe to be workers from LEC usually come at their homes in the night with the intention of, getting people who are illegally connected. I want to know if this was sanctioned by LEC. If yes, how do we identify people? Now, in terms of entering people's home legally, there should be a warrant. The LEC sanction this carry on an operation for people to get at homes and get people who are illegally connected. How can you speak to that? Thank you.
Okay. So the second 3 set of questions also, they are more or less together again. So they all point to the fact that the problem is coming from within the LEC. Okay, I will address the first one. When it comes to power theft, people believe that LEC is encouraging power theft because people within LEC also help to illegally connect people. I will be the first to tell you, I don't dispute that, and this is why we are there in LEC to fix things. We are not under any illusion that LEC is already fixed. No, we are there to address all those issues, and I can tell you what we are doing now to address some of those things. We are introducing an ID card system that when you seize an LEC personnel, LEC personnel, you see the LEC personnel, ask them for the ID. Publicity will be all around on the radio telling you that you scan it, okay, you see over the ones, you see the barcode on it, you scan the barcode on your phone. If your phone has internet, it takes you straight to our website. The list, if that person is an employee, LEC, it will show. If that person is not an employee, please help us. Call police to arrest that person. The publicity will be coming out. Internally, we are doing, we've hired HR consultant, to independent consultant to come to clear our system. And we are also working hard to hire one of the big five, I'm not going to call the name, to come and do management assurance. All these things we are doing to clean us, make sure the process, and one thing I believe, if your processes are slow, very slow, in a sense that people work days, they turn around time to get meters, they turn around time to respond to complaint, they turn around time to solve issue, more than a day or so, it's a recipe for people to say, okay, you know what, my neighbor is connected and you are not ready to connect me, I will connect myself. We're going to cut that out. And this is what we are introducing, the whole digital transformation. We will have our team working on the field. We will have you go in the Google Play Store. Google Store you download. You go to the Play Store, you download our app. When you have a complaint, you log your complaint. And we are going to a period where the turnaround time to get meter hours are supposed to be days. So those are the interventions we are already doing internally to address all those issues. While we are asking you to stop stealing, we are also working internally to identify those that are in the system, the bad apples in the system, to reprimand them, to set examples on them. At the same time, putting in place system that it will be difficult for them to behave how they behave. We track them, we can capture them as if you can directly go on your phone and just click a button and we know from our dashboard, certainly you don't need anybody to come near you, right? If you can go on your phone, to pay your token through your app, and so many things will be coming very shortly, part of our whole digital transformation. The whole idea to make LEC viable, financially viable, to be able to sustain itself, to be able to even contribute to the national budget, to turn a trouble utility around, to make it a vibrant and operations excellent. We have 4 pillars. The first pillar being financially viable to make LEC, to make it operationally excellent, to be able to respond to your calls at night, customer-centric, institutional effectiveness and governance. We have proper oversight for the board to hold us accountable. Then, the digital transformation aspect. So those are the things you are moving aggressively to ensure if we cannot fix that, then we don't need to be in LEC. And that's what we are committing to ensuring that we fix all those things. Yeah. So, and that will help to avoid the instability. Then in the night, that was part of our effort in the interim. The interim solution we are doing. Anti-power theft led by Mary Broad and her team in a day, we later realized that people, you know, in a day you get some people connected, refrigerator, AC, and some houses you see, the only way we can know when we go there in the night. When you see some stories, some folks we've got direct connection, and you see refrigerators, AC, these are consuming. You pay your bills. Somebody there getting free electricity. Come on, man, that's not fair. People should pay. It's not free because we're not buying it. So what we did, we introduced tax in the night. When we come, the team, they are trained to first, we have procedure as the follow. Maybe Tomo can explain better on that because the Rebro and the team will be working on that. So when we go to your place, we ask you for, we want to see your meter installed, both outside and inside. We want to make sure You are connected, you are not direct. And most instances, they are refusing because most of them are illegally connected. And by the time we go deep down, to the extent people dig the ground, they pass whack. Man, people are crafty. They will do it in a way, by the time we discover them, you see 2, 3 AC. And you counted it. The first week we started, we saved, was it 5 or 6 megawatts? 5 megawatts. You know what that means? 5 megawatts can let hold, it depends on the load, but an entire town. People are illegally connected and it stayed coming up. So when we introduce the smart meter, our projection is we will save more. And our billing will come from 53%. If we were lucky to go 85 to 90%, at least will be viable. We will be in a position to even contribute to the government. Next phase.
Yes, sir. I'm Samuel Jose and I vote for half. On the issue of expansion and rural electrification, can you outline LEC current plan for expanding electricity access to rural Liberia? And what's the timeline can you give for that? And on the issue of power theft, I want to know what's the prescribed fund or penalty for those who are found in that, because recently the power theft force came around my community and the honestly just arrested few people who were around the place, who were just standing to see what was going on. And then we took them to nearby place there. And then she served as almost the police, the prosecutor, and the judge, determining how much somebody should pay. Like she just look at a Labani person and say you pay $650, and then she look at one fuller person and say you pay $400. She look at Labani pay $150. So I wanted to know what is in the book for those who are cashing in stealing electricity.
Because if you don't have questions, then I'll start with the question.
So, my name is Joseph Sadi and I report for Lata TV. Sir, I want to know, in terms of revenue generation, how many data your entity can generate a year? If you can tell us that. 2, how many data are you losing in terms of power terms? And lastly, when you travel.
One question you asked me, please. Next question.
Last week, LTA brought together both consumers and ISP and providers.
Come again?
Last week, LTA brought together consumers and that of ISP, internet service provider. And then in our gathering, ISP and the consumers with a lot of concern related to buying their LZ token from their mobile money account. But then a lot of them said whenever they purchase their token, they receive it at something like 48 hours. After 48 hours, they receive their tokens. And then the ISP provider, which is both Orange and Moonstar, said their system is effective. But then the problem that derived from LEC system. So citizens are concerned. Are there plans in addressing these concerns?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. So let me. Okay. The first question on the third batch of questions, the issue of access. What is our plan? Our plan in terms of access consistent with the National Compact. And I told you from the opening remarks that the National Compact, we have a target of 100,000 yearly on grade and 40,000 off grade. What that means is that wherever the LEC grid is extended, we do household connections. And wherever it is not connected, we work with the Rural Electrification Agency and our donor partners to do the connection there. Now, what we are doing in terms of access, our access are in 2 categories. One is the connection through our medium voltage line, the transmission line. First, we've got to go there, extend our grid. Then after that, before we extend the electrification in a community. So our plan includes, we want to close the loop. And what that means, the western loop and the eastern loop. We want to take it from Clay all the way to Bapolu to Foya. Then we want to take it from Bassa, connecting Sano, Grand Cru, Grand Jide, all the way to Côte d'Ivoire side. You close the entire competence of the transmission line. But that will not be done in just 1 year. So as we connect the transmission, engage to increase our grade expansion, we also work to expand our access. So for this year, we are currently working, in addition to what we have done in Grand Bassa across compound number 1 at the outskirts of Buchanan, going to Riverside, part of Bond County, part of Monserrado. We are going to Cape Man side to do our extension, bombing the seaway, and within Buchanan, there is an intervention currently being carried out by RREA, but there will be a gap about 20 communities, 30 communities that we are currently working to fill those gaps. So in terms of expansion, we are going consistent with the compact. As I indicated, the compact 100,000. So at the end of year 2030, we will be meeting the Mission 300. Mission 300 is basically, by the year 2030, 300 billion Africans should be connected to electricity, should have access to electricity. And Liberia has committed itself through our national compact that every year we should connect 100,000 folks, 60,000 being on the grid, 40,000 off grid. PowerTel, how fines are determined? Is it that somebody come here and tell you this is how much you pay? That's not how it is done. We have, I can tell you, one of the persons that you should respect is very broad in terms of organization. I can tell you that for a fact. Because I've worked with her, collaborated with her, even when I was at Ministry of Finance. When you go there, they have full arrangement, legal system there, everything, based on our PowerTel law, our existing law we have on the books. So we go through that entire process before a particular, and we have our own methodology of determining how much you owe. Sometimes customers don't understand. We at LEC, we know the power that's going out. We got a check meter. Through our check meter, if we connect you, if you have a dedicated line or so, when we send power, even if you cut your meter off, we know how much power going there, and we have our methodology of calculating. We tell you, on our cost recovery, we tell you, this is it. And in most instances, just to encourage you, we reconnect you, and we work with you mutually to help you pay what you owe us. Now, the issue of how much revenue we collect on a yearly basis, I can tell you, since we got in, we see our revenue projection has increased by 22%. Since last year, is it 22? 22%. And that was translated into dollar amount to around $39 to $40 million. So on that front.
Let's pass the question. What is the answer?
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. My name is Trokon Farmer and I work for DN News Liberia. In your session, you said that with the peak of the rain each year, all the countries in the region benefit. Does it mean any electricity for this country? And just to put a spin on my colleague's question about revenue generation, you stated that 53 cents is the only amount you are collecting
out of $1.
Out of $1,
and the rest
is responsible for the number of houses burning up on the place. And recently, I can share that experience with you just in a second. At my home, I was at home by 2 in the morning, and there was a guy, I overheard him on the microphone. It said, he was saying that LEC power is high. Call up your appliances, LEC power, and he consistently said that let town choir in a community.
Yeah, one question, there's so many sub-questions that I need to address. Those are valid points that he raised. The first one, the fact that really the rainy season, everybody benefits, doesn't that prove former finance minister's point? What I can tell you on that, before you can trade, you need to have a power purchase agreement with your trading partner. In the absence of a power purchase agreement, it will be very difficult to determine that. And I know from my vantage point, at the time I was heading the CLSG, we have power purchase agreement between Cote d'Ivoire and LEC. And Cote d'Ivoire was supplying LEC. LEC wasn't supplying Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire was supplying Guinea. Guinea wasn't supplying Cote d'Ivoire. Those were the two power purchase agreements we had. So on the other one, though I didn't write it down, was the issue of Pinsville. That speaks to the first point I indicated in my opening remarks. At the beginning of post-war Liberia, small like today, big like tomorrow. Most of the interventions, some were temporary. Some of the system we built, they are overstretched today. The Pinsville substation was built for 7 megawatts. Today, we have about close to 14 megawatts. So this is why the government is working hard through the LEC to upgrade the Pinsville substation. As we stand now, the cabinet approved a resolution to aggressively move to upgrade not just the Pinsville, but the Bushro substation, the Mount Coffee substation to upgrade. All those will be starting the contract, signed everything. We'll be taking it to the legislature for clearance before we can proceed. But in the immediate, we are not sitting. So we are doing temporary arrangement to work to install some transformer to assist. Because once the transformer is overstretched, what happens? You have the continuous outbreak. So now, even today in our senior staff meeting, that was the issue we're addressing to make sure we address. So it concerns, or to answer your question, significantly, and this is what we are addressing going forward. In the short term, before we can upgrade it to a bigger transformer, we have an existing transformer that can withstand for some time while the new ones are being built. Those are the interventions we are doing at the Pinsville substation to curtail that, because it is dangerous when you live around there every time outbreak. That's one. Number two, now on the Pinsville, you see sometimes at the pole, you see light, fire breakout. Can lead, everybody wants light. A given transformer is supposed to take maybe a load of 200 kV. Well, it has 250. By design, it's supposed to be 200. So people, we don't want to be people with electricity. So this is what we're moving. We have a program. We call it system, reinforcement of the grid. It's a program, and that includes the conductors we have connected to poles, to replace them, to upgrade them. The poles we have to replace them with concrete poles. If you see the Vata route, we can see we clean that place up. Then transformers replacing. Last year we replaced 400 transformers. So the program contains so many projects that we are currently moving to address all these things. So all we can say, we hear you, we are addressing them, and we just urge you to, as you becoming patient with us, you also hold us accountable as we proceed. So the next.
So can you address the issue of people claiming that you are current money houses?
Okay, now, that is important, Mr. Minister. LEC doesn't go into your house to do your electrical wiring. We don't do that. People are building their houses, substandard wiring, and there is this global effort on standardization. And LEC, working along with the sector ministry, Ministry of Mines and Energy, that is our sector ministry, providing the leadership guidance to develop a standard for the energy sector. And that read through for the entire value chain. Now, when I say value chain, from the generation, transmission, distribution, and support services. So everything that comes into this country in terms of the electrical sector, whether an LEC bringing it or business person bringing it, should be up to standard. That's number one. That's what government is doing to address that whole frequent power. But we've also, from our own assessment, individuals building their houses, they call somebody to do their wiring. Without even insulating the wire into a point or so, they do it like that. And they are in a community. When they come to say, LEC, connected to LEC, I want 3-phase. And you connect to LEC with 3-phase, sometimes it comes powerful. I'm not an engineer per se, but I work with engineers for over 10 years. So I can tell you that that is a recipe for fire. So we will come and work with you and advise you. By law, we can't go in your house, we want to fix your wiring. So we will only advise you that you need to look at your wiring. So that has been one of the major drivers of people catching on fire. The one on our poles, that's overstretched. We sort of get 200, but then it going about 250. So we're going community by community. Somebody asked question of monitoring. The smart grid system will address all those issues. And our timeline, we are moving. This year we have phased approach. We're doing this year. You see significant improvement as we go into. By the time we reach 2028, 2029, we are expected to be a vibrant entity.
Thank you, MD. Good afternoon. Good to see you. My name is Desmond, and I report for the Democracy Watch newspaper. MD, you announced in your presentation that currently the country, Liberia as a country, we are receiving some power supply from our neighboring countries. So that reminds me about the agreement with Africa, which is about 50 megawatts, and that of Guinea, 30 megawatts. Of these two agreements, in terms of specificity, how many megawatts currently are we experiencing as a country, given the recent release that was published on the LEC page that there are some technical, adjustment being made, and there will be some power decrease in our country. And that's what the president mandated to you as an entity that by 2028, that's a 2030, there is an expectation to have about 75% of our citizenry connected to access to stable electricity. And you announced of recent, which is 2026, 38% of that 75% have been connected. So what is the assurance between now to 2030 with the remaining 3 years, in terms of reaching and achieving the president mandate of having 75% of our citizens be connected to safe and reliable power supplies?
Yes, I can tell you that. Yeah.
Let me continue with the 3-3 so that we can catch up with that.
I didn't read. So
you didn't read that one.
I didn't read that one.
Go ahead.
The next one, right? Yeah, yes. So the first question, how many megawatts we getting? Yes, we signed 50 megawatts with Cote d'Ivoire, 30 friend. That means no matter what happens, we need to get 30. 20 additional energy. So for Guinea, we signed 30. 20 firm, 10 additional. When you sign a power purchase agreement, people put clauses and things to safeguard against eventuality or so. So from Cote d'Ivoire, we are getting a firm, which is 30. Yeah. Then for Guinea, in a day now, we are getting 10. Then in a day, we have 30. So in a day, we have 60. In a day, we get between 40 and 50. And to address your other question, we put a publicity out, the press release, that yes, that was true. Cote d'Ivoire, Azito, there is a power plant, Azito experienced some problem, so they lost about 200 megawatts. And when that happened, what you need, quickly you address your domestic consumption first, before you even think of export. So these things are done mostly. Even last year it happened, but that was short term. It depends on the magnitude of the problem. So they tell you, we are going to supply for the next 2 days. less. As we improve or we restore, we will come back to our normal. That was what that happened. Completely different from the current load shedding happening now. The current load shedding is as an effect of the hydrological stuff, the dry season, not only in Liberia. People are supplying you, if you don't have enough, do not give it. Even if we have all the Mount Coffee on, if we can bring power from outside, we will still have load shedding because that is just 57 megawatt. That was what I was saying. Thank you. So now
let me fast.
Good afternoon, MD. My name is Oya Phillips. I work for the New Liberian newspaper. I'm not a technical person, so I will break it down in Liberian way so you can carry the work clear. Because someone asked that question, that answer is still.
Okay.
So, for instance, Liberian want to know why I would go and buy foreign land, and then to receive that token number, it will take so long. Sometimes I'll have to go back to one of the LC area before I can get that token number. Want to know why? What are you doing to ensure it doesn't happen that way? The second to that is sometimes the project everybody don't have much money. So for instance, I have $100. I decided to buy $100 quarry. I buy it in April and it get finished maybe in June. But when I go buy that quarry again in June, the system there in LC will say, why did I buy for this? April? Why did I buy for May? Why did I buy for June? What are you doing to mitigate the kind of system? Thank you.
My name is Haruna Ekukogi, and I report from Place FM. FD, there is place people out there concerning the acquiring of the transformer, wherein some Liberians are saying that it's payable, some are saying it's free. So Liberians want to know what is the process in acquiring a transformer for individuals or communities. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Mohammed Sharif and Antonio Kislomo. It's for lengthy labor. I want to bring something to the attention. I want to know how serious JFK is. Who? JFK, JFK Hospital. When they visited, because last time the president was there for the official launch of the Hearing Care project by the Roger Club, and Warren left about 10 minutes. Yeah, no problem will come, so I want to know.
About 3 minutes.
Or no problem. But Warren left.
For those who subscribe to the Liberian analysts, so Mr. Managing Director, I want to bring your concern to this information. It's very concerning, as well. Considering that electricity consumers already pay taxes through their regular purchasing of power, how does the Liberia Electricity Corporation justify the 2.50 deduction on initial recharge as mandated by the Liberia
fixed charge?
Yes, the fixed charge by the LERC. Is not this perceived as an additional financial burden on struggling citizens, and are there any plans to review or possibly review this measure? Thank you.
So can we just take the last person?
I'm Joe Wasco, and I report for former newspaper about online television. And I must appreciate your presentation, but I want to ask you this question. The sector you manage has been earmarked for a significant portion of the LCC contract, but Liberians wants to know what are the most realistic target you and your team at the LPC will be able to meet for the implementation of this LCC contract?
You already understand.
Okay, let me just close the question since I was there with the My name is Armstrong Kubra, I report for ELBC. You talked about the smart meters. Smart meters. Yeah, smart meters, and how it will help to eradicate the issue of power theft. So
in my mind, I just want to know what's the process. Are you going to distribute the smart meter to everybody who have it right now, or what's the process like? Be to that, somebody was asking about the power tech issue, and you talked about how you initiated the night power control or something for people to go overnight. What are the specifics that these guys look for if power tech person comes to my house and asks me what are the basic questions or what do they look for to determine whether I'm stealing current or not? Because some of them want to enter a CD, some of them want to go in the bathroom and stuff. Yeah, so I want to know the specifics. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the questions.
Okay, the last batch of questions, the issue of the token was asked first, that when people buy their tokens either from the bank or for the vendor, you know, our token sale, we outsource that to a super vendor. And a super vendor to have sub vendors in the community. And what we are telling the Liberian people, we believe from our own assessment, it's not all rosy. There are issues around the whole aspect. This is why we are there to fix it. And part of that fixing is the whole aspect of coming with the whole introduction of the whole package. Smart metering, the gray modernization package. And we're also coming with, to address customers' issue, we're going to have district offices. We're going to have district offices, we call them the NDBUs. We'll have commercial, we'll have engineers, we'll have administrators, one-stop shop. You have Peaceville. Any issue surrounding the Peaceville, you want token, you want what, you go there. You want to address your meter, your problem you have, you go there. In addition to that, I just indicated that we will have app you will download on your phone. Within our app, by the way, there will be sensitization around this. On that app, so many features will be there. They will ask you, do you have a problem of token? Press 1. It will tell you where, how to address all those problems. So for that, we'll be the first to acknowledge that it's not all fixed. It is what we are doing to fix it. And we are even far advanced in that process. Beginning next week, you will hear on your radio station sensitization around that. Now, somebody talk about transformer. Let me answer that straight. LEC is going to give you the transformer. Transformer is not for you. It's LEC asset. Now, people try to misunderstand certain things. There are certain dedicated transformers. Somebody wants transformer in their yard. They want dedicated transformer collected in their yard. I cannot own a property in your compound. If you want a dedicated transformer, that's for you. We will tell you the cost. We will tell you how much it will take to come and connect it to your compound. We will tell you the price. You pay for it, we put it there. But if it is a transformer that the community, our grade, we will plant it in the community, LEC, we don't ask you for 1 cent. And we put that press release out a month ago to tell everybody, when you see any LEC personnel telling you, pay money, let me plant pool. And we know it's happening. People will come and lie. So we are working internally to address, to identify those folks. We've been catching them. Just last one, the Deputy for Administration and Operations that we disguise ourselves to be somebody interested in pool. And the guy gave his direction, who's supposed to give the pool, grab the red, and they led us to others that were doing it. So we catch them. So the straight answer to your question, you are not supposed to buy poles, you are not supposed to buy transformers. That's our responsibility. And transformers, poles, cable, LEC asset. Now, In instances where a business center want dedicated transformer, we have not reached to that level where we have enough money that will put dedicated transformer. We have enough money, we can say, okay, we'll do it for you, because we are in the electricity sector. So some businesses, because we know when we connect your business, we will benefit through your monthly payment to us, right? So we share the cost. Mostly 60-40, we pay 60%, you pay 40. Just pay small to help us. Until LEC can leave the red, we can turn around the entity to green. JFK. Now, the issue of JFK, we've been working with JFK to really work. That's the JFK and those strategic areas in Liberia. We don't joke with them. You see the military barracks, you see the airport, the Freeport, LPRC, water and sewer, those key national assets, we try as much as possible to give dedicated lines to them. For JFK, we realized that different administrations did different connections in different ways with different materials. So you have different, and when you enter their engine room there, so everything just here like that. So the administration, or the current administration of JFK, realized that lights going off and on, so they invited LEC to work with them. We went with the full assessment, not only with JFK, also the airport, to clean their system up. When I mean system, their electrical system. Before they put their generator on, when LEC comes, it can change. Normally it's supposed to be automatic switch gear. Once LEC comes, they won't go off, the other one come off like that. And they are mutually reinforceable, independent in terms of activities. So what the team did, they went to work with them, cleaning it up. It took us a month clearing it up. The same thing we did with the airport. We did it for the airport. Now the airport is okay. I can tell you now, JFK is okay. Help to install their transformer that they bought. We also share costs with them. To say, you know what, we will help you. Even though it's internal, but we will help. I think we pay, I'm not sure, Thomas, it's about 60%, yeah? Around 60% of their cost. And we did that for most of those strategic centers. LEC went our own revenue generator to pay, to help to fix it. JFK, when you ask them, you can do your own research. Pay
for LDS.
You will also pay for LDS. Yes. We pay for LDS. Those are strategic areas that we make sure, and that mandate came from the president to make sure the strategic areas will make sure we address all the issues. He doesn't want to hear that, oh, airport get problem here, and that's why appointed us, and this is what we've been working. So for that incident that day, there was a tripping on the lamp over current. The engineers over current. It went for only 3 minutes. Immediately it was restored, and that was around 3 minutes. And keep on.
10 minutes.
Okay, we agree. No problem. 10 minutes. Yeah. Now MCC Compact. Yes, we've been working with the Ministry of Finance. Because that's our partner. They give us money to help us when we need support from the government. So the Ministry of Finance is taking the lead on the compact discussion. What is going on now is the compact development. The national coordinator has been recruited. The national coordinator working across government, coordinating across government, and along with the compact folks from DC to do root cause analysis, constraint analysis, everything. At the end of the day, there will be the concept, project will be developed, individual projects will be selected, and the Minister of Finance is moving aggressively to cut down the typical compact development that will take up to 3 years. The Minister is really working to cut it down to half or even more. So we are working with the Ministry of Finance to ensure that is in the energy sector, we address those constraints and to see how best, what are the key areas we need to go. I don't want, it will be premature to tell you exactly where those support will be going until the concept can be developed and finalized. The fixed charge. Yeah, let me get that last question to my team to answer that fifth charge. Yeah, Adam, yeah. Go.
Thank you. So, on the issue of the fixed charge, I guess some of you were present at the hearing when we applied for the tariff, and this question was brought up again. Now, when we apply for a tariff, there's a term called required revenue. We ask LEC to approve that we charge certain amount to be able to generate certain amount of revenue. LEC looks at our revenue, and in terms of tariff, they divide it into two sections. Part of it is fixed, and part of it varies with the current that we take. Now, what is the logic of the fixed charge? One will ask. So you see in your communities, going towards your transformer, you have poles. Along those poles, you have trees, and those trees have branches. The fixed charge is designed to even maintain those lines, even when you are not there. So for instance, somebody say, well, I'm not home for 2 months and I come to buy my current, why am I paying fixed charge? You are paying fixed charge because even when you are not home, we still have to maintain the line that carry the current to your house. We still have to have maintenance guys working, cutting down the trees, cleaning the line. If there are problems with the transformer, they have to fix it. So those that are there using it for that time, they are paying the fixed charge. Even when you are out, you have to pay that portion of that charge, of the revenue that is required. So there is no additional amount that is given to us. It is our tariff that we ask LEC to approve, and they divided it into fixed and variable. If we have decided to go all in variable, it wouldn't have increased the tariff. But it wouldn't be fair for those that will be maintaining the line when you just get the current and then leave your house for 6 months and then come back and still be able to enjoy the house, even though other people are paying to maintain the line that carry the current to your neighborhood. So I think that's the logic of the fixed charge.
Okay, thank you, Adam. So I got two concerns, Mr. President. When you driving through Hartwell, see that our entire road is like a street light. We start from Freeport to Rayland Market, and corridor is like a street light. I'm wondering, when do we see that from Broad Street to Broad Street? That is not the same there.
For where?
From Broad Street to Broad Street. It's not the same. Second, the Ministry of Information, for example, is not the smallest ministry. You give us data. So if we don't put token in the data, we learn about it. But I have checked, and a couple of government ministries and agencies far bigger than ours still use the flat rate system. Why is that so?
Thank you very much indeed. The explanation you provided very helpful to the users of the services of LEC. I was just concerned. I know power tip has been a problem for LEC, and I was happy to hear that LEC is about to install smart meters with the goal of mitigating power tip. But I want to know why it is possible when these smart meters are installed and in the wake of the interruption that we experience regularly because of our road capacity to generate and everything, so that you do road sharing for 2-3 hours. Is it possible if I live in the Ghana Bay Township, if LEC will go in Ghana Bay by 7 o'clock, is it possible to send a message by 6 o'clock to inform the people who use this area that they will be out of current for 1 or 2 hours? I think my dad will be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So let me address the last one, then I'll come back to the whole top one. Yes, it is possible. Currently, it is possible, but costly. We've engaged Lone Star, all the GSM companies. It will cost a huge sum of money. The last DMDA, the last time when it was huge, you have to even call me one time and tell me, oh, cheap. They think I told us small money, just one message when you're selling out. Almost in 200,000-300,000 or so for a set of message you send it out because they charge $1. If you send it to 300,000 customers, that's how huge it is. Now, then what are we doing to address that? So this is part of our package on the smart metering. You got my what? The DSS system, part of that whole package that we bring in on board. When we install smart meter, we get all your information, we geolocate you through our GLR system. Your pole, we get number, that number will be attached to your house, your name, everything, all your information. But if don't have issue, you see, and that's why I said from the beginning of my conversation with you, that by the time you bypass the meter, we see you, you get a message that you bypass the meter. Anything you do, we see you. That's why they call it smart. We can shut you down remotely. We can cut you off, we can put you on. So we can locate you and go and catch you. As it is now, don't be different, but even if you bypass, we don't know. All we know, power flowing. So to address that. Now coming back to the minister question from Broad Street to Broadview. Mr. Minister, from in Central Morovia, the Cinco, we started putting street lights. If you observe, on the avenues, we started putting street lights. They should be finished in a week or two. The street lights are being installed on those avenues. Now, when you come down to Johnson Street, coming to the bridge, the reason why for Barton, when you take it from Barton, they are about to start road construction there. Working, we don't just go and install street light. We got to work with the Ministry of Public Works. Statutorily, they are responsible for street light. We collaborate with them where we will install those lights. They will tell us, but for now, we try to install the light on existing poles that are on the side. But part of the package, we've already assigned that they are coming soon from Bush Road. No, not Bush Road, from Barton, all the way to St. Paul. Then for St. Paul, we collect broadly. All of them will be lit up with the street lights. Then from Freeport, that is already completed. Now Puebla, down, coming down to Johnson there. Then from my team said I'm allergic to stay in darkness. So when I told the team that we would take it from Park Upping all the way going towards Kakata because that place can be dark. Yeah. So we are going gradually based on our budget and the support that is coming in, and I must on this occasion extend our thanks and appreciation to the government for their support. The government is indeed supporting us to really move aggressively to address all these problems. Even a short-term solution we are working on now to prepare. So the second one, Ministry and Agency Prepaid. Mr. Minister, the last cabinet asked, you raised similar concern.
Oh, you're there, right?
I was there. Minister raised it. Yeah, in the cabinet, and I was there. The vice president specifically said, or put it in court or the LEC, because you're supposed to connect. So we are working with our sector minister, the Minister of Mines and Energy, to reinforce the connection of ministries and agencies. I agree with him. The smaller ministries are connected. What happened with big ministry? Don't ask me that question. I'm not going to tell you. Until we don't want to tell you our secret. We're going to go connect. What I'm not going to do, we're not going to connect prepaid to strategic areas because they are paying. The JFK, those strategic areas, we're not going to. By the way, LEC is EFBC is paying. Yeah, postpaid, they are paying. So our key account agents work with them. They have all their paying. So those are postpaid, but we are going to move very fast to connect all the other ministries. So I can assure you, we will treat you fairly, and not only you, the smaller ministry, their budget. I mean, smaller the budget. Yeah. So we'll work with that. I think, is it possible to inform the people? Yeah, I've already addressed that, yes. So that's it. Thank you, MD. Thank you.
That was a detailed and lengthy presentation by the Managing Director of the Liberia Legislative Corporation. I'm sure this interaction has been very helpful to members of the public. Where there were doubts, those doubts have been clarified, and we know where we stand in terms of connection, new connections, when we can relax on the outages that have been experienced right now. The MD laid out everything here. We want to say thanks to our media friends for the interaction. The questions helped to clarify some doubts. And so we want to call this press conference to a close by thanking the team from the NDC. The MD came here fully prepared. The great Eugene Fagon. As I went in the office there, this press conference being carried live on ELTV. So the DG is working extremely well to expand the coverage of this press briefing. DG, thank you. Thanks to all our media friends. We look forward to see you on Thursday. Thank you very much.